Okay, we'll reconvene. Oops, sorry. We will reconvene our meeting. We're under the section of the public comments on the 2023 audit findings. We had registration cards at the entryway. We have 5 of them at this point, so we'll go in order of receipt. And keep in mind the format is 3 minutes worth of comments, and we'll just see how that works and go from there. So first of all, Chris Geetson, if you want to come up to the podium. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. Before I start with this, I just want to tie back to what Corey Lee was saying. As a son of retired law enforcement, I cannot accentuate the importance of their mental and emotional health. Not only would that program benefit law enforcement, it would also benefit their families, thereby benefiting the community. So I think the sooner that process is started, the better for all of us involved. And with the truck regulatory officer, yes, frost restrictions coming into place. We don't need our roads beat to shit, so the sooner we could get that process started, the better as well. So I'd appreciate that. I do believe that society would be way better off if teachers and law enforcement were our highest paid professions. I think society would be way better. Another thing I'd like to point out is the amount of attendance today. It seems like it's a little bit more than normal, which is good to see, but unfortunate it's under these circumstances. Now, as elected public servants, how is it in the best interest of your constituents to put the profit of Stark County Corporation over the people? Do you all really believe you know how to save and spend my money better than myself? You all willingly, knowingly, repeatedly, and illegally took money from the people you're supposed to be serving. On top of the illegal taxation, the bond referendum passed in 2023, adding another tax increase. This on top of 4% inflation. People were hurting and still are, and you, who are supposed to make our lives better, chose to financially harm your constituents by unnecessarily taking more than legally entitled to. All this under the threat of fine or imprisonment to the constituent for not paying the tax. How's that not coercion? You could say this is a system problem, which it is. However, we elected you to follow the law. In order to follow the law, the system needs to be fixed. And you as individuals that comprise this taxing entity chose to not fix the system, but continue to violate statute. That is a people problem. My questions are, what is going to be done to prevent this in the future? Will you adopt a budget template that falls within state statute? What remedy will be provided to the people? And how soon will this take place? Do we need to go so far as to have the people of Stark County request BCI come in and do a forensic audit of the Stark County finances? The governing body of this commission cannot be sued. However, each of you as individuals can be for fraud and deception under the guise of public service. Why shouldn't we as taxpayers hold you as individuals accountable for your personal choice to not stand up for your constituents and do the right thing and follow the law? If I did this to the county, I would be criminally charged for theft or embezzlement. Seems like a double standard. Rules for thee, not for me. Now, if the criminal system will not enforce the law, the only remedy left is civilly. Now, how do we keep it from going there? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. After Mr. Geetson is Matthew Rothstein. Matt?
Thank you very much, commissioners. Thank you for having me. Once again, thank you for filling these spots. I know it's sometimes hard listening to us, but I do have a couple questions, and thank you very much for bringing your points up. I have questions, and hopefully you can guide me to the right area, because I do research online trying to find the information out. In reference to the 2020 and the 2023 audits. So based upon discussion in the newspaper, what I got out of it was that you guys do have some type of mill reduction plan in place. My question is that documented someplace so we can read it, the citizens can read it, so we can, if you do have it in place, you can show us that you're trying to bring it down. Okay. So if you do have that mill reduction plan in place, when was it started? How much is being reduced each year to follow NDCC? And when will it show in that plan when the residents will not be overtaxed? Based upon your all's comments in the newspaper, that how I got it, that you all feel, the county feels that going down to zero for a year, zeroing it out, puts undue hardship on the residents. That's how I took it. And then, hopefully there is something like that in place so we can find it, you guys can publish it. Did the county commission ever, since the 2020 audit, place out during some type of commission meeting the county's plan? Are you going to zero it out? Are you going to reduce it? Are you going to reduce it per year? How much it's going to be reduced by? Because obviously we all know the issue. Did you guys look at any courses of actions? Are you going to follow NDCC? Are you going to have a city plan, published city plan? And then what course of action did the county follow? That's what I'm looking for. Can you tell me if any of that has been published, and then where can I look? Or who do I need to ask that question to? So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, after Matt, we have Ed Dick.
Good afternoon, Council. First comments were made were very well. I either want my money back or I want a reduction on the current. So give my money back. You took it. You didn't ask me. No comment on my part was ever asked. I want my money back. Period.
Thank you. Okay, fourth on the list is Joshua Lehman. Josh?
First, I'd like to say that I came because I saw the Facebook post. I don't like to come uninformed, so I did read the county auditor's report. I do appreciate the understanding that reducing it to zero would create different escrow problems with mortgages and causing undue harm and problems with people having to make up escrow and really fluctuating mortgage rates. As a homeowner, I understand that completely. What I don't understand is why our sheriff and our sheriff's department is losing $20,000 and we're in excess of 5.48 million or whatever the number is. Why they have to ask for time and a half when most every industry pays time and a half on a holiday. $20,000 versus $5 million. I don't know the ins and outs of how your budget goes. I don't claim to understand that. But I do understand, I'm responsible for $2.5 million a month in my job and budgeting that money accordingly. $20,000 up against $5 million in a year is nothing, and that's unacceptable.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Next, I have Cassidy Thibodeau.
Hello, my name's Cassidy Thibodeau.
Sorry, I mispronounced.
not quite used to this, and I apologize for my appearance. I dropped 2 kids off at 8 a.m. in the morning on Tuesday. I would like to add, I think this topic deserved a special meeting at a more accessible time for the public. I moved to Dickinson about 10 years ago with $300 in a suitcase. My husband, who I met up here, has a very similar story. I bought my first house in 2017 at 21. Since buying my first home, I've paid about approximately $17,000 in taxes. Also, since buying my first home, I have gotten married, had 2 children, lived through COVID and struggled financially, fought and beat stage 2 colon cancer, has had 6 surgeries, has owned and bought 2 homes. I can think about a million things my family could have used $17,000 for. Our audits have come continuously overtaxed, and it's quite disappointing. We come from no family name, no money, no college, just hardworking people that moved here with a dream for a great life for our family, something that we weren't exactly given. You're hurting good families, you're hurting good, hardworking people. We pay approximately $330 a month in taxes for our house. That is over our phone bills, internet, essentials that we need. We also run an S Corp. I look at numbers all day long. Do you think that $17,000 since owning a home, which has continuously came back, that is not being used properly, we have been overtaxed, do you think that has been used wisely? It's been proven it hasn't. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more, Mr. Kubis, Bobby Kubis.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ms. Richard, thank you for the time. I want to talk about the findings of the 2023 audit. After reading a lot of the documentation and reasoning that Mr. Chairman has stated in the newspaper and on a certain radio station, following fiscal responsibility is what he was citing for the reason for not kind of adhering to what the auditor recommended. And although it might have caused some confusion and, I don't know, a lot of confusion, I guess, if we'd run our mills down to 0, I don't believe that enough was done to get in compliance with Century Code. You can achieve fiscal responsibility and follow the Century Code. The law, Century Code 11-2302, which you probably know, the 75% threshold is well than enough money extra to achieve projects if they're planned ahead of time. Now, if you don't plan ahead and all of a sudden something breaks and needs to be replaced, obviously, that's where the money in the general fund would come in. But the 75% threshold is more than enough to sustain growth, projects, certain things like that. Mr. Chairman had said that we're going to need a new jail soon. You can take some of the money from the general fund and allocate it specifically for that over the course of 10 years, over the course of 5 years, whatever you want to do, and you can plan for that. Now, my recommendation is to do what the auditor has recommended by getting that Century Code in compliance with what our county is doing. Whether that means to lower the mills, whether that means to take some allocation or take some dollars from the general fund, move it to projects you know are upcoming. But I believe, this is my personal opinion, that you guys sitting here need to follow the Century Code as best as you can. And that is basically for the citizens of the county. Having that kind of money sitting in the general fund really only leads to a lot of spending because it's there. If you have a lot of money in your checkbook, of course, most people are going to spend it. The reason for the century code is to limit the amount of spending that can take place. If you don't agree with it, that's up to you, I guess. You can always lobby the state senators and legislators to change it. But since you guys are elected and you work for the citizens, I think, in my opinion, it'd be the right thing to get to that threshold and move on with life. The audits that are going to be coming up in the future probably will reflect the same. And I don't think the mills are coming down fast enough to reflect that. So my advice would be to follow the century code, what's in place, to the best of your ability, or maybe it's time to vacate the seat and let somebody else do it. Thank you.
Thank you. One last request from Dale Bedoya.
Appreciate our privilege to speak on items that concern the public. And today I'm here to see if we can hit this thing that State Auditor Galvin says at zero mill levy. If I remember back 4 years ago, he came up and said that we were over our limit that we could have assets, $25 million, I think he said. Why, I'm thinking, can we reduce some of these assets and still have and use that money to keep the lights on for the county, pay the workers, and go for net zero? I think it'd be great for the public to have a reduced levy. So basically, that is my comment. Are we still there at over limit on our more than what we can have?
We'll try to answer those if you want to finish with the public comments, because we have a time threshold here.
Okay.
So
Okay.
portray your questions, and then we can try
That's
to
all I
answer.
have then.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, that will wrap up the public comments regarding the audit findings. And I would certainly entertain comments from any commissioner, response to some of the questions. I'll certainly take a whack at some of them if you wish. Okay, I'll try to stay within my 3 minutes as well. So I think what you see is the audit that was just released, the findings that were just released recently on the 2023 budget, showing surplus funds over and above the 75% threshold, is a finding that has been there for a number of years. The first time it was published was in 2020, which was actually a finding on the 2019 audit. And actually, I think 4 of us are new in that, so that the first time we had an opportunity to address that issue was in the 2021 budgeting cycle. Someone asked, what's the public process for getting involved in the budget? So the state requires that you have 2 meetings. You have a preliminary budget meeting, you have a final budget meeting. In 2021, we had 4 meetings. We had 4 public meetings asking for public input, and we adopted our 2022 budget based on feedback, requests, just like we went through recently. At about the same time when we were doing the budget, we were doing our 2020 audit with the state auditor in 2021. And that finding, if you go back and look, also shows that we had excess funds over and above the 75%. I was involved in a conversation, the auditor and I were involved in a conversation with staff from the state auditor. And the example I used was, or the question I had was, we at that point knew we wanted to do the eastern bypass. Road out 107, I believe is the number. And it's a big project, big number. Our engineer's estimates was north of $8 million, okay? So the question I asked her at that point was, how do we do this, and chip away, and because we can't afford to do that in one swat. We needed to try to budget over a couple budget cycles, so we had enough money to start and complete that project. And her recommendation at this point, and someone made it, the comment was, well, what you have to do is you have to put those funds in a capital improvement fund, and then when you think you have enough money or the project is complete, you can take that capital improvement fund down to zero and pay for the project. And so the question I came back to her was, let's say in year 2 of us doing this 3-year budgeting for the road, we had an emergency. We had a weather event, a bridge washout. Can we go into that capital improvements fund and pull money out of there to do emergency expenditures? And her answer was no. It is restricted funds only for that. And so if we would have followed, and my follow-up question to that was, so at the end of the day, whether the fund, those monies and dollars are in the general fund or in a special capital improvement fund, the money in the bank is the same, correct? And she agreed to that. And so at that point, we as a board elected to take the more, you say what you want, flexible option on how to spend those dollars and be responsive so that we didn't have to raise taxes and other facets or go in debt, okay? So in 2021, the first budget that we were involved with, the previous year, the general mill fund was levied at $6.7 million, okay? We made a motion and passed in 2021 to take that down to $5.7 million. We reduced the levy at that point by $1 million. That was a question that was asked. Subsequently, in the future, in subsequent years, we've taken that fund from 5.7 million levy to 5.5 million, and that's where we've done the last 3 years. I believe I could stand correct. The last 3 years, including the 2026 budget, we've maintained at 5.5 million. Okay, we cannot operate a county that, today in 2025 or 2026 for the same expenses that the citizens are requesting that we did in 2020. Okay, property taxes are not the only revenue source we have. We have other sources. We have gross production tax. We have highway distribution tax. We have a number of other revenue streams that take us to the $12 or $13 million that we annually spend. And so when you want my position, right or wrong, you can disagree with me, but the position that I took and we moved forward on is to take a long-term approach and view to this stuff. Because, for example, recently we had a request from the Airport Authority for a contribution of $4 million for the new airport terminal, okay? If we'd have followed the auditor's recommendation at that point, took the levy down to zero for 2 years, 2 things would happen. Number one, your taxes today would be higher than they are, and there's, we all recognize, you get a tax statement, you pay the bill to the county, even though there's 4 or 5 political subs in there. There's the county, the city, the school district, park rec, all these other things. That amount, unless your property has increased significantly in value, that portion of the tax to what's called County 45 on your bill has, unless your valuation went significantly higher or you made additional improvements to your property, that amount is either equal or less than it was 5 years ago. So we are reducing, our costs are going up. We are slowly reducing the mill levy. To your question, we almost do it in dollars now rather than mills, even though the form requires mills to do that. And yet we're trying to provide the services that everybody wants. Good roads, good law enforcement. We talked about that prior to that. And so those are the kind of things that I look at, and we can disagree to disagree, but that's the approach, the longevity approach or the long-term approach. that we took in that regard. A couple other points, a couple of the questions that I wanted to make sure that were asked. I don't know if that asked your question, Matthew, if there was something else. Okay, so again, there is an option to go out there and take it to zero. We could have done that, right? But I think there would have, again, you know, the feedback or the result of that was that your taxes would be higher today than they are. And I think you can expect us to continually try to work those levies down over time, but yet responsible and responsive to the, you know, to the demands that we as a county commission do. So I guess that's, this restricted funds thing, I think, is probably an area, actually, the state auditor, to his credit, yesterday reached out to me. We had a good, long conversation. These restricted funds options are a little bit problematic. I think we need to give political subs more flexibility in that regard. State legislature, they have all the flexibility in the world. We as local political subs, we don't, we're tied in that regard. And so, yeah, so the questions I had is, what's the access to the budgeting process? We have always exceeded that. What is the process to try to keep these mill levies or the mills on the general fund going down? I think I tried to address that. You know, certain individuals, I would personally benefit being in the real estate business. I would benefit immensely if we took real estate taxes to zero. But, you know, we have to wear our county commission hats when we sit up here. And that's hopefully what we've done, and hopefully the most people can, at minimum, understand and hopefully also agree with our path forward. So surplus funds equal excess spending. I don't necessarily agree with that, because we've had surplus funds now starting since energy came. The gross production tax is one of our main revenue streams. We budgeted for the 2024 year, we budgeted that we would receive $2.2 million in gross production tax. We received, because of production and price, we received about almost 2.5 million. In 2025, if the next 2 months, November and December payments, equal the last 2 months, our revenue stream will be $700,000 less than last year. So when you're, you know, the definition of a boom is it's followed by a bust. And so we're trying to, part of my mindset and as a board, we're trying to get rid of those ebbs and flows, the highs and lows, so we have a nice steady stream forward. Again, not everybody's going to agree with that, but we think we try to do it for the best of everybody. So I'll shut up and let somebody else comment. What's that?
Can I reply back to that?
Sure.
I appreciate and understand what you're saying. You're talking about the spending of the money. The problem is the way it's being collected and the way, the method you guys are going about it. The spending, I get. But if you didn't have the money that wasn't illegally taking to spend, it wouldn't be an issue. I understand everything you said makes sense, but that's not the issue here. The issue is the way that money is being collected to spend. Mm-hmm. Is something going to be done to follow state statute with the budget from here on out?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Oh, I'm sorry.
Also, you mentioned house values and taxes. In the last 3 years I've owned my current house, my house has been raised 15% assessed. I know that's a city issue, but also the taxes have been raised 7%. So in 3 years, 15% on a house, we have had no construction or any value added during a really hard financial time for most people. Seems excessive, as well as the tax increase. So you've made a mention of if your house went up in value, which I don't believe it has in 3 years. So.
Well, on the valuation process, I'm very sympathetic to your plight on increased valuations in the city. If you've followed our meetings, you know, since 2021, our meetings have all been available, multiple platforms, you know.
I've been kind of busy.
Well, and I get it, but I'm just saying, we've addressed that issue numerous years, and we have,
It hasn't gotten better.
well, but we don't,
I know.
we don't control the city.
So we can blame the person that's not in
'Kay.
office anymore.
Okay, so, I mean, what we do control is valuations that are done at the county level. And if your evaluation is strictly at the county level, that has not been a result, that has not resulted in that. So I appreciate your plight, so, okay. So we'll close that, and we'll move into other public comments. There was no other, as you know, the policy requires us to do a sign-up form. That was dictated to us by the legislature. We adopted the policy this summer. So we have no requests for other public comments. So anything else to come before the board? Anybody else want to make a comment? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By Commissioner White, do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Claris, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. I would gladly visit with